I'm here to finally address the allegations, the elephant in the room that everyone has been messaging me about constantly, but I didn't really want to talk about it. And that is, of course, Wendigoon has released his own video on Petscop, which has led a complete and utter mental breakdown in my comments section and even my subreddit. But, you know, my subreddit will complain about basically anything. I feel like with my subreddit, I could marry a wife and have a beautiful child, and the first thing they would do is roast the newborn baby's hairline. Now, before I get into this spicy drama, you may have noticed the background is looking quite different. That is because I have finally transitioned, not into a woman, but into Place Sweden. I'll be honest, you guys are going to make the jokes. You're going to call me a Sweeaboo. Just get it out your system, all right? Because I'm now in Sweden, and this place it's so good. But then again, I was from the UK, where you've got grey skies, grey buildings, and then brown rivers. I do love the typical London greeting where people touch down into the UK thinking, what an amazing place to be, only to be greeted by a knife through the chest, and then someone asking, oi mate, you got the time? And then they take your iPhone 11. But being serious, I did want to talk about Wendigoon's Petscop video because I feel like if I don't acknowledge it, it is going to follow me until the end of time. Now, I'm sure you've all seen it. Wendigoon has put out a comprehensive deep dive into Petscop, going over everything, all the videos, because the series actually finished a couple years ago. And I do want to say, by the way, definitely go and check it out. He has done a masterful job breaking everything down, giving his own interpretations and his own analysis. And you probably have seen in the beginning of the video, he addresses me in the least snide way possible.
Also, since we're talking about Petscop, to address the elephant in the room, with that out of the way, let's talk about one of the coolest things that I found on YouTube.
Now, one thing that's really interesting about Wendigoon's video, at the tail end of it, he actually does go on to say that he wanted to wait for the dust to settle because obviously my video came out basically 10 years ago at this point, but also more recently, there's been other big YouTubers talking about Petscop in a retrospective way, like for example, Nexpo. Now, the funny thing is, both of these YouTubers, Nexpo and Wendigoon, they're both incredibly talented. Definitely go and check them out, especially if you like the main channel videos where I yap and basically do a plot summary. But both of them reached out to me, and Nexpo, when he reached out to me, said, can I call it Petscop 2? And I was like, nah, I'd prefer if you didn't, thank you very much. And then when Wendigoon reached out to me, he said, I'm gonna make a joke about Petscop 2 never coming out. Is that okay? And then I told him it's totally fine. And then he said, thank you for introducing, you know, the series to so many people. Now, again, I don't want this to come across as like a tea spill kind of thing. I think Wendigoon and Nexpo make some of the best videos on the platform. I think as I've gotten older, I'm an old man now, I'm 27. I enjoy more kind of long form videos, especially because, you know, if you open up TikTok or Instagram Reels, you are just flooded with absolute degeneracy. And I think that even though all the social media giants in their big Nexus brain spheres, they want everyone to watch Reels, to watch Shorts, because it keeps you on the app longer. I'm really happy that YouTubers like this are still making long-form content that does well. I mean, a really good example as well. Flazfire recently released a pretty deep dive video onto another YouTuber who he thought was pretty cringe. And that video has over 1 million views. So thankfully, I am so grateful that there is a market of people that will still consume this long-form content and not just kind of shorter slop. And also, I do want to say, please don't get it twisted. I don't want people to think that, oh, he's talked about Petscop. Now no one else can talk about Petscop. You know, I found Petscop like 7 or 8 years ago. I did a video on it, but like that doesn't then stop other YouTubers from talking about the same thing. If anything, like I encourage it. I mean, I would much rather someone do a deep dive on a game or a piece of media and give their own thoughts and opinions as opposed to, I don't know, man, like Watch Mojo Top 10. God, do you remember when they were a thing? They actually fell off, man. Jesus, that was... Ooh. Now, most of the community thinks at this point that Petscop 2 is basically a bit, right? And it probably was the biggest running gag in my community until the incident. Yeah, the incident. So the Petscop 2 meme kind of fell off a little bit. It got hijacked. But people are still wondering, am I doing a video on it? And the answer is... maybe? Now, Wendigoon in his video made a very good point, basically going over and saying that he wanted to wait for the dust to settle. He didn't want to kind of jump on something after so many YouTubers have talked about it.
There's been people like Pyrocynical and Expo cover it that gave the series huge traction. I wanted to wait a while for those videos to kind of get their steam, to kind of let the community settle, to then talk about what I think about it.
I mean, with me, it was like basically a decade. I think that would have been all right. There'd be a lot more new gens on the platform. But obviously with someone like Nexpo, who released his video, his version of Petscop, only, I think, 3 to 4 months ago. So that was still definitely pretty fresh. The problem I have at the minute with doing a Petscop 2 video is it's like No Man's Sky, right? Like there is so much hype. I mean, it's probably semi-sarcastic hype at this point, but you know, there's so many people that are like clamoring for it and waiting for it. So some of you could have been like kids watching me, and now you're at like college or uni, or maybe even have a family. Ugh, that's cringe. Responsibilities? What's wrong with you, bro? That sucks. But the thing is, it's been hyped up so much that I got really in my own head thinking there is no way that I could do a video that would do it justice. I can't just talk about it, you know, behind a camera and show clips. I have to do something huge, like, you know, like get a scene done, or get like a set done, or some VFX, and sink a stupid amount of budget into it. And I'll be honest, I think this is a huge problem I've had for a lot of the main channel videos. I try to make each one better and better, but then it reaches the point where, you know, the hype has died down for something, or I've lost interest because ADHD brain going like 3 billion miles an hour. So then you reach a point where you've sunk so much time into something, it's like, am I happy with this? Is this going to be like good enough? I mean, if you do want to know the status of the main channel at the minute, we are trying like some kind of shorter videos. Not that one. We're not doing that again. Okay. I promise to God that will never happen again. When I mean more shorter content, I mean, not every video has to be 8 hours. I think the next video that we're working on at the minute, it's probably only clocking in to be around like an hour or so, or maybe even shorter. I mean, if you don't believe me, which to be fair enough, because I upload on there like basically twice a year at this point, here's a quick snippet of that video that should be out fairly soon. And yet to this day, you still see new fan-made content for TF2 all the time. Yep, there is definitely some fan content out there.
Oh.
And today I want to talk about a very special piece of this ongoing fandom surrounding what many consider to be a dead game. And, you know, not dead just because it went free to play and invited the horde of paws. I'm talking about how no server in Team Fortress 2 is safe, especially the ones that are completely empty. I actually saw one comment on Wendigoon's video saying Wendigoon built his channel, reached 4 million subscribers, and ended up doing a full Petscop video before Pyro. And then someone else replied saying, no, that's fucking crazy when you think about it, because I watched that video in high school, fresh 14, I'm 21, late on my taxes. Like, bro, I think Wendy got it. And again, I'm genuinely happy that Wendigoon was able to make the Petscop video. He was able to cover it and share it to a brand new audience of the internet. Personally, I think it was like so wrong word. It was so hyped up within the community that I thought to myself, I don't know how to talk about this. There's no way that I could do a follow-up video that would be, you know, good enough. One thing that I do know, if I ever did a Petscop 2 video, I probably would stop talking about it. I probably wouldn't show any kind of promotion. I wouldn't show it anywhere. I would kind of just like drop it one day on the internet. I mean, I'm looking at the Petscop channel now, and it blows me away that the final Petscop episode came out 5 years ago. Like, that video was basically one of the, I think that was genuinely one of the first videos I did. There was me kind of, you know, transitioning over to long form kind of review style content. And then after that, I would do film reviews and stuff and put Logan Paul's face in way too many of the thumbnails because he had a lot of clout back then. The main takeaway from this is for the last couple of months, I've definitely been in like a big creative rut on what kind of content I want to put out. What would get views so I can pay people, but also at the same time, what do I enjoy making, and what do people also, more importantly, enjoy watching? And that is one of the reasons why I moved out here, you know, just to kind of like get a breath of fresh air, to kind of, you know, compartmentalize a little bit and see what other options I've got. I don't want this to come across as like a big kind of cope and seethe, even though it definitely is. I'm also going to link Wendigoon's video down in the description so you can watch it yourself, because he's done a really good job going over the entirety of the series. I think when I did Petscop, I only went over the first 6 or 7 episodes, and by now, because it's wrapped up, there's well over 20, which is just insane. And even though Petscop has completely wrapped up, the creator of the series, Tony Domenico, he actually went on to do other ARGs as well. I mean, they didn't have anywhere near the attention of Petscop, but they're still definitely worth going over. Like, for example, 3D Workers Island, which, you know, it's basically like a slideshow website. I thought there'd be a jump scare because most of those slideshow websites do have a jump scare. If you're a super old head, you'll probably remember a callback to that time that PewDiePie got jump scared when he was reading a manga online.
I heard her screaming from far away.
But I definitely also recommend checking out the other work that he's done as well, because 3D Workers Island definitely has a very twisted ending. There's a very dark atmosphere there. But the best thing is there are no jump scares, because I hate jump scares because I'm a coward. So that's my big fat inflated cope and seethe about Petscop. I know this is like kind of a more rambly video. The next video we're going to put out is going to be an ASOT, thankfully, because man, me moving to Place, Sweden, I have missed out on so many happenings in the past 2 weeks that there has been a lot. And I'm not going to do individual videos about them because Critical's already talked about it. Come on. So we're going to compile everything into a big, chunky ASOT, and that should be out within the next couple days. You know, one thing Wendigoon's video reminded me, I actually went back to look at the original Petscop video that I did, and that was still the era where I was doing like the really cringe, fake, deep voice for some reason.
Each pet has a detailed description about them, much like reading an item description from Dark Souls. This game was the precursor to non-linear storytelling. I mean, who cares about Dark Souls, really? So what? You can turn yourself into a headstone. Who cares?
Oh, it hurts to look back on, man. It hurts to look back on. I hope you guys like my camera setup, by the way. I've got a ring light now, so I just look like a glazed tomato. Look at that. That moisturizer just looks like we've got oily skin. Yummy. Yummy skin.